The first time, I read a John Grisham book, I was hooked. I was a fan. I think the first one I ever read was The Firm, and then I went back and read A Time to Kill, and then I read everything he wrote after that. And, he just fascinated me with, the fact that he could write, legal dramas, I guess is the term for it, and just be so convincing. But of course he's an attorney and he had the experience, so he brought it into his writing for the books. But it just, every book seemed to be just a great book to me. But then he went into a slump, and some of his books weren't so great. It seemed like he was kind of running out of steam. He wrote some books that really disappointed me. It would be, he took you along on a journey, and then he just like pushed you off the cliff at the ending. Then he wrote some books that had no legal questions in them whatsoever. They were just standalone books that, involved everyday life. Then he wrote a true crime book. Then he wrote a young adult book. Theodore Boone, I think, was the subject matter, or the hero of the young adult book. So he was all over the map, and I really did think, well, things are just pretty much, gone downhill with John Grisham. And then I picked up his new book, The Litigators, and I thought, this is the John Grisham that I loved from the start. I loved his writing, and it's a book that has a legal, background, legal storyline to it, and also, to me, it was his funniest book. Now, I've talked to people who did not see the humor in this book, but, maybe you have to have a certain quirky sense of mind to get it, but I was just laughing out loud while I was reading this book. I just thought it was hysterical. It's about a guy who is named David Zink, who works for a high-powered, law firm, and one day he goes into work, and it's like his feet are leaden. He just dreads going into work so badly. And he works on like the 98th floor of this huge building, and he's, as he gets on the elevator, the closer he gets to that floor, the worse he feels. And he arrives and steps out into the lobby, and then jumps back in the elevator and takes it back down and flees the building. I practiced law at one time, and I know exactly how he felt. But he, and from then it goes. He goes to a bar. I mean, he's not much of a drinker, but he goes to a bar and spends the day in the bar because he dreads telling his wife that he has left his law firm, and all of those things. And then through a twist of fate, he ends up meeting up with these two guys who are ambulance chasers. I mean, they just do anything to try to get a buck, to make their law firm go. And it's the firm of Finley and Fig. And somehow David gets involved with them, and it's just, to me, again, it was hilarious, and to have this super educated, knowledgeable attorney who ends up with these two guys who are just barely hanging on by a thread to their law practice. But he finds some manner of relationship with them. And then Wally Fig, one of the attorneys, stumbles on to what he thinks is the case of the century. He finds out about a drug that people take, and it causes side effects, can lead to death. And so he begins to churn up clients, to go to this huge lawsuit against a pharmaceutical company. But it just plays out. There's a trial. There's all these interesting side characters. It's what John Grisham does at his best. And I think The Litigators is one of his best books ever. I can't wait to see the movie. I hope to make a movie out of it. But anyway, if you like John Grisham and you've missed him in the last few books, pick up The Litigators.